I'm answering your questions today about our favorite four-footed hunting buddies. Now, whether you have a duck hunting dog or you wish you did, it's some really interesting stuff. Stick around. I'm Joel Strickland, and this is Surviving Duck Season. Surviving Duck Season is presented by Mojo and High and Dry Waders. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Now, a while back, I did a Q&A video answering a lot of your questions about duck hunting, and we didn't tackle any dog questions because I got so many questions about hunting retrievers. I thought I would kind of compile them into one video. Now, this is not by any means all of the questions that we got, but it was some of the more popular questions. A lot of them were asked same questions by multiple people. So what I've done is I've put together quite a few of them today. Now I want to start off by saying I'm not a dog trainer. Okay, some of you may think that I'm a dog trainer. I've trained some of my own dogs. I've had some trained by professionals. I do have a lot of experience with dogs, from puppies all the way up to really awesome, field trial dogs and that sort of thing. But I'm not a professional trainer, but I do have some good advice, and maybe at some point I may drag a couple of my professional trainer buddies in on the Q&A as well. So let me start off with probably one of the more common questions that I get. What are some tips on getting my dog started in the training process? Most people get a puppy when they're probably 7 or 8 weeks old, and that's pretty much the standard deal. If you're gonna train the dog yourself, I feel like you need to get started day one. As soon as you get that dog in your home, you're starting that dog off, with socialization to you and your family. If you have other dogs or other pets, you're socializing your dog to that. I say start working with obedience things first, manners things first, having the dog know where his place is, having, a spot in your home where the crate's going to be, crate training your dog. That's so very important, to get all that stuff worked out. I feel like that even if you intend on keeping your dog outside or keeping it in a kennel or that sort of thing, it's really important, at least for the first few weeks, keep your dog in your home. Teach them, crate train your dog. Let them out often so they can go to the bathroom outside. Build repetition with your dog. If you build a schedule with your dog, do the same things at the same time with your dog. It's really going to help your dog to be successful. There's a lot of really great videos that are out. There's a lot of good books that are out. I suggest choose something that is current. Not to say that Water Dog isn't a great book. I read the book and learned how to train a dog using that book and a couple of others, but there are a lot of other newer books that probably do a lot better job in helping you to learn that sort of thing. Richie Kelwertz says, my buddy has a lab that is having bad breaking problems. Any suggestions? Yes. That's an obedience thing. And part of it is he gets so amped up probably that when the gun goes off or when he starts seeing birds fall, he runs. And that's a very common problem that most everybody has to probably address from one time or another. Number one thing to do is keep a leash. Tie him to the blind, tie him to the bench, tie him to a tree or something to where he can't get out, because a breaking dog is a dangerous dog. You've got to control a breaking dog. The best way to do it, at least short term, is we get a leash on the dog and then just, unhook the clasp on it and, send the dog once the gunfire has completed. But aside from that, your dog having a place. And so whether that's a dog stand, whether it's on a tree, or it's a section in the blind that is slightly raised up, the dog knows where he needs to be. A dog that's raised up even this much off the ground, it really can help with the dog, knowing where a spot is, not roaming around in the blind and getting out of the blind, walk around. If he knows where his spot is, the chances are you're going to have a lot more success with keeping your dog from breaking. A lot of people make a mistake is not having a place for their dog. And if you can put your dog in a situation where he can always succeed, whether it's in a little hut, a dog stand, or a specific spot in the blind that is kind of, quartered off, away from people, that sort of thing, that would be my suggestion. David Donnelly asks, do you recommend the use of a shock collar? So just like I said before, yes, I use e-collars. I've used them on every single dog that I've ever had. They need to be used properly. Please do not use an e-collar unless you know what you're doing. You can ruin your dog. If you've had your dog professionally trained, then your dog trainer will teach you how to use it properly. There's a lot of videos out, books that talk about how to do it. It's not just a correction tool to zap them when they do something wrong. If they haven't been introduced and collar conditioned the proper way, you're going to hurt your dog a whole lot more than you are going to help it. But if you do it the right way, it's absolutely phenomenal the success you can have using one. Gary Myers says, I'm just curious, do you train your own dogs or do you pay somebody to do the training? I have had a couple of dogs that I've trained myself, and then the last several dogs that I've had, I've sent to the trainer. I guess I've sent like 4 or 5 to the trainer over the last 15 years or whatever, or more than that, I guess. Professionally trained dog is definitely the way that I plan on going. Once you drive a Ferrari, you don't want to go back to anything else. And not that you can't have that training a dog yourself, but the time commitment and being able to get your dog to that kind of level for most people is just very, very, very difficult to do. And so what I do for my training is I usually start the day that I get my dog training and until about 6 months old, and then I take them to the trainer. And so usually by the time my trainer gets a dog, all of the obedience stuff is done. I've already done single and double marked retrieves, working from a dog stand and all that kind of stuff. Even at 6 months old, my dogs all do that. They're making 50, 60-yard retrieves pretty handily, and doubles as well. And then the trainer takes that and usually goes through the evaluation process for the first month or so, and doing collar conditioning and all that, force fetch, and then they move on to the other things. John Sapinza, how long do you leave your dog with her trainer? It's a process, okay? Usually the first year, it's probably 5 or 6 months, and then I get the dog back, take him hunting, and then the next, after season's over with, goes back for another 4 or 5 months, and then again after when it's time for hunting season, come back, I get the dog back, and then third year, same thing again. Usually that's what my schedule has been with most of my dogs. Is that it's a 3-year process. Usually about 4 to 6 months every year is with the trainer. I usually do the hunt test thing with my dog. All right, here's another dog question from D. Eberg. Can a dog that lives in the house be more susceptible to hypothermia in cold weather versus a dog that's outdoors 24/7? My experience is no. I've had dogs outside that stayed outside all the time. I've had dogs that stayed inside. Typically, I do put my dogs outside most of the time when it starts getting cold, just because I feel like that it helps to acclimatize them to the weather. But I really have not seen any differences over the years of any of my dogs that I say would be weenie dogs or whatever, because they've been inside all the time. All right, I've got quite a few guys that have asked questions about dog vests. Do they really help? Do you use a dog vest? That sort of thing. Yes, I do have a dog vest. Most every single dog that I've ever had didn't like wearing them. They seem to like fidget around and all that stuff. They always seem like they're very relieved when they get to take them off. But I do use them. There are certain times that I don't use them. If my dog is hunting in water that is kind of in between swimming water and running water, I don't like for them to use it because it slows them down. I mean, it's like night and day difference in the speed in which they can get in and out. A lot of people do believe that using a neoprene dog vest can can help the dog stay warmer. I know that when on a super duper cold day, you can kind of reach your hand inside and feel the warmth inside that. And so I do feel like it probably does help a little bit. Just make sure that it fits the dog properly. It's fairly snug, but not tight. And especially around the arms, holes or the leg holes or whatever, that it's not rubbing. Typically you can see if it's starting to get wore out pretty good in there, then it might be too tight and you might want to kind of cut it a little bit. Here's a good question from Robert Belleville. I've got a lab puppy this year and she's going to be about 10 months old when the season starts. She's doing great, but is that too young to take her on her first hunt? Okay, that's a really good question. I'll tell you kind of my philosophy on it, and I've hunted dogs at 9 and 10 months old before, and they did okay. But I've learned kind of over the years that the older they are when they first start hunting, the better success you have. They're just a little bit more mature, and they tend to pick things up quicker. They don't get frustrated, and I don't get frustrated, which is really more of a problem, I think, than it is for the dog, is the handler usually gets frustrated. What I've really done in the last several dogs that I've gotten is I've tried to get them to where I wasn't tempted to take them too soon. Indy is the dog that I've got right now. She's about 5, and her birthday is actually in November. And so her first hunt, she was a year old, just a little bit over a year old, when she went on her very first hunt. And that was fine. She was professionally trained and she was ready to go. But I had good success with her. But most of the dogs have actually been even a little bit older than that in the last really 15 or so years. They've all been a lot older. They've been like 14, 15, 16 months old. And you just see a big difference. Even 1 or 2 months, you can see a big difference because, if you think about dogs, what vets and professionals tell us is that, in the first couple of years of their life, you can kind of look at a dog and say 1 year to 1 month in human kind of deal. So a 12-month-old dog is like a 12-year-old kid. And there's a big difference if you've had children. There's a big difference between a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so, as you look at a dog's maturity level, take that into consideration. So to answer your question, should you hunt your dog at 10 months old? It depends. Depends on where they are. Are they steady? Are they obedient? Those are the most important things when taking a dog is, are they going to sit there? Are they not going to break? Are they going to mind? If they can do those things, then sure, give it a try. And if you can't put your dog in a successful situation, I wouldn't take them. Not as a young dog. You want to be in a situation where everybody in the blind is on the same page and you are working your dog and not shooting your gun. Joseph Billings asked, what's your summertime routine? A little bit of stuff with my dog. I don't really do tons and tons of work with my dogs because usually that time of year my dogs are at the trainer until they're at the age that Indy is. Indy's now 5, and so she's not going to the trainer anymore. She doesn't need to go to the trainer anymore. All of my dogs see a lot of action every year. They pick up 1,200-1,500 birds, during the duck season. There's nothing that can replace that kind of experience. Once my dogs get to, 4 or 5 years old, I'm not trying to, spend a lot of time doing drills and that sort of thing, except just kind of refresher stuff. And most of that takes place later, in the year. Occasionally I'll take them to the pond or something like that to, let them get wet in the summertime. But for the most part, she's getting a well-deserved break once she has kind of learned what she needs to learn, and because duck season is coming. So that's all the questions we're going to take for today on dogs. But I will tell you this, in the near future, we're going to do a video with a good friend of mine who's a professional trainer. We're going to ask him some questions and get his insight on some things. I know it's going to be really, really helpful for you and for me as well. Thanks for watching this week. Make sure you check out some of our other content. If you missed the video that we did on the Q&A several weeks ago, it's right here. And check out this video right here too. It's a really good one as well. Until next time, I'm Joel Strickland. Good hunting and God bless.